Hey guys, it's Volka. So this is the Profane Veil Warlock build. It's quite similar to the Riplet Warlock build as well. So instead of using Marrow Shards, we're using Profane Veil, and it's the main damage is the Profane Veil on this build. And we're still using Riplet for the stacking damage to buff the Profane Veil. So basically what's happening on this build is Profane Veil spawns these like Profane Orbs. They scale with cast speed. And per curse you also get more damage on the orbs. So a really nice scaling on this build. We're stacking as much cast speed as possible, like on almost every Warlock, but especially nice on this, so you're getting double dips on the Riplet flat damage stacking with more cast speed. You can stack more flat damage, and then you also get frequency on the orbs, like basically you get more and more orbs the more cast speed you have. And then for the other skills, the same Warlock core skills as on other setups, so Fissure for flat damage and Entrance Threshold, so you can get a bunch of flat damage from that, and then Bone Curse and Aura of Decay for buffs and debuffs on enemies as an aura. So this build, of course the main damage is cooldown based, but you can easily clear maps with just Riplet itself. And for bosses, this has a lot of burst DPS, so more like bursty DPS than Riplet build, and higher bossing damage. Alright, let's get into the build guide. So Profane Veil, main damage, and this is the Profane Orb node. So frequency per cast speed. So we get a lot of cast speed on the build with all the idols and everything. So you're gonna get a lot of orbs, and you also get more damage per curse. So we apply many curses to enemies, and so this deals insane damage. And since you also want cast speed for Riplet, you get a bunch of spell damage at the same time when you spam this. So the idea is that you spam Riplet, you have the Fissure on the ground for the stacking buff, and then you Veil when you have all the flat damage you can get. Then you Veil, and you're gonna have the damage for the whole duration of the channel. And same thing goes for these boots, for example, very important item on the build. So you get 40% more damage every 3 seconds for your next movement skill. So basically every Veil, because this is a movement skill, every Veil gets the 40% more damage buff. And this applies for the whole duration of Profane Veil. So very important item to get. And apart from that, we go physical damage on the build, so you can use stuff like physical spell crits. You can get Aura of Decay for the minus physical res on enemies, so the best damage type, physical. And then we just max out the damage with all the damage nodes. And one point here for the cooldown reduction, so when you use Fissure, you get some cooldown back on Profane Veil. And Fissure, apart from the stacking buff node, so this basically self-torments you, applies torment to you, and then you can stack it very high, like 50 stacks usually. With the endgame setup, you want Spirit Frequency here on the chest for more stacks. You get the duration here for even more stacks. And then we have Acid Skin nodes, so extra crit, and you can scale it higher with the increased poison damage. And we want to get Acid Skin Swine Amulet to apply Acid Skin to enemies. So that's pretty much the setup for the crit. So you can easily get max crit with just the D7 on the helmet. You basically get all your increased poison damage from passives and the amulet itself, so you get some increased poison here, and then you get the passives like this, so this global increased damage is also poison damage, works for the node. And on Riplet, apart from the stacking damage node, we're maxing out the damage on the skill, so we can clear with this, so you don't need to rely on Profane Veil for clearing. So this plays like kind of like a normal Riplet build for maps. And we do go for the orbs here, so more damage, some more AoE, splatter for more clear speed. You get the mana here, so you don't need to worry about mana. Bone Curse as an aura, so this applies a bunch of curses to enemies and also to you, so which is good because we get the amulet also gives you ward per second for each curse affecting you, so you have a lot of ward regen. And what also happens where you're getting the mark for death here, so this applies minus 25 all res to you, so we need to be overcapping resistances, which is not too hard to do. We have a bunch of all res. Red rings makes things easier for sure. You don't need them though. You can go rare rings or something like that. You don't have to have them. And we also need to overcap physical res, because Aura of Decay also applies minus physical res to you. With this node, you can easily get physical res from the suffix. And one important thing to note on Bone Curse, so the aura does stay on even if you take it off your bar. So you can use Transplant here, and the Bone Curse aura will still stay on, so it will stay active. And the gearing on this build is quite usual for this Warlock setup, so the same Mad Alchemist Ladle, the Stat Stick Catalyst for damage, Thornslinger, +1 physical skills. The bleed chance also gives you a bit more damage, because this is per 10% bleed chance to get 1% more damage. So we don't really build bleed chance, but you get some from the belt as well. Really nice item to use. We're also going crit avoidance on the endgame setup on this, and also aspirational. Aspirational we go madness, so with this you have to go crit avoidance if you want to use madness, but even on endgame setup, crit avoidance blessing makes a lot of sense. We want to get dodge also, so this gives you dodge at the same time. So then you only need 1 D5 crit avoidance on the belt. And this build basically has like many layers of kind of like immunities and dodges. So Profane Veil, you guaranteed dodge every hit while you are in the Veil. And then when you're out of Veil, you get hit by something, you proc the damage immunity from the mountain chest. And then you also have a bunch of like normal dodge. So you can get like easy like 1k dodge and more on the build. So this gives you a bunch of dodge. So kind of like these layers of damage immunity and dodge, you're going to be very, very tanky. And you're also tanky otherwise as well. So it's not only dodge you have HP, you have ward, you have armor, all that stuff, endurance. So quite a tanky setup. I wouldn't expect to die too much on this when you get the full setup going. And apart from that, pretty usual items: spell crit gloves, red rings, bone clamor for stats mostly. You don't really care about the word per second. It's you have quite a bit already from the amulet, but it's nice, of course, also. Reliquary Nest to buff the idols, and you go full cast speed while cursed. One Profane Veil duration. You don't need more than that. Other than that, you just go full cast speed. Even just the one idol makes the duration very long with all the effect you have. And you even get the cooldown bonus from this altar, because you need to make like a pyramid with this. So this setup gives you the 10% extra cooldown, which is very nice. And on the altar, just go prefix effect. That's the main thing you want to get for the cast speed to be more effective. And passives on this build, quite similar to other Warlocks, of course. Main difference would be this node, so we're getting the less damage taken while channeling, and also more damage to damned while channeling. So this is nice. While Profane Veiling, you want to get 1 point here for the damned chance, because we actually don't have any other source of damned, so just 1 point. We'll have at least the 1 stack of damned on the enemy.